Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Tampa B2B marketing / Pardot community group meeting. My name is Ben. I lead this group. I'm a senior solutions architect with BDO Digital, a Salesforce partner firm in the U.S. Um, if you would like to work together, feel free to reach out, find me on LinkedIn, or send me an email. Um, we're happy to see if there's an opportunity to work together. Um, that's my pitch. Today we have a great presentation looking at some of the newer AI features that exist within account engagement / Pardot. Zoe is back with us. She was presented previously, and so she's going to do a bit of a demo walkthrough of the Gen AI features and the Einstein Assistant features that exist that are available today in account engagement. So with that, Zoe, feel free to introduce and kick it off.
Thanks. Hi. So I'm Zoe Fischer. I'm coming from London today, and I'm from a company called Nebula Consulting, who are based in the UK, and we're also a Salesforce partner. So my role there, I'm just going to share my screen. Can you see that? Yeah, great.
Yes, we can see it.
Cool. So my role at Nebula is I'm the principal marketing automation consultant. So I cover all things marketing cloud. And so a lot of what I do is trying out the new features and kind of putting together resources on that as well before we get going with them. So in this session today, we've got a few learning objectives. We're going to be covering the Einstein Assistant. So we're going to be able to explain what that is. We're going to be able to create prompts so that we can use Einstein Assistant to generate content for campaigns. I will caveat this with this is going to be a live demo today, so of course I'm having a few technical issues with my demo org, but I'm going to demo as much as possible today. So I want to first kick off by explaining what the Einstein Assistant is, and to kind of start, I want to first talk about security. So one thing that keeps coming up with a lot of our customers is how secure is it? Because we all know that, we could totally open up a new window and go to ChatGPT or another tool and start asking that to generate stuff for us as well. But that is much less secure. So looking at the Einstein system landscape, and this diagram, by the way, is available on architect.salesforce.com, which is a really great site as a resource for getting really nice diagrams and system landscapes and things like that. So found this one on there to talk about the Einstein system landscape, which I think is a really nice way of showing how Einstein is baked into the Customer 360 apps. So when you're using Einstein, the input first goes through something called the Einstein trust layer, this middle section on the screen, before it goes out to the external models such as OpenAI, before then returning that output back to you in the app that you're using. So I think a lot of people that are a bit nervous about using Einstein and how secure and how safe it is, Salesforce have done a really good job at making sure that it is super secure and that it removes, toxicity and things from the output that you're getting. In our case, the app that we're using, the 360 app that we're using, is the account engagement app. So a little comment on security before we go in. Okay, so talking about the Einstein Assistant then, once it is enabled, it's going to appear on the right side of your screen, as shown on the slide, for currently emails, forms, and landing pages. So it just appears as a little chat box at the side. And before we go into the demo, I want to talk a little bit about how we're going to be able to generate that content with Einstein by writing useful prompts. So a prompt, we might hear this term quite a lot at the moment. I know this is something that a lot of marketers need to develop this skill and be able to write prompts. And this is a skill that's really becoming desirable at the moment. So this is essentially just the text that you use to communicate with AI. And the more specific you are with that, then the better the output will be. So how can we write good prompts for Einstein so that it's actually useful? Because we want to use it to save time. We don't want to be using it to then spend so much time making whatever the output is actually useful that we might as well just written our email in the first place. So we've got this kind of structure here. It's super simple. Start by calling out what the situation is and then provide some context so that Einstein understands the background, and then give the instruction on what the outcome will be. I will say from my experience, and I'll show you a few different ways of writing these later, with the Einstein assistant, the instruction doesn't need to be super clear. We've done a lot of testing of writing good prompts and bad prompts. There's definitely a difference in the output, but yeah, I think the more specific you are, the better. Otherwise, you will just get something kind of random. Cool. So here's a bit of an example prompt that we'll be using. So we have our initial situation. So I work for a company called Pursuit. We run events aimed at professionals in the beauty industry. And the context here is that at our event, we connect beauty pioneers with suppliers, media partners, and brand experts who share insights on how to stand out against competition. The event occurs on the 12th to 13th of July 2024 in London at the Olympia building, which for those of you who haven't been to London is a really popular building to host events in. And the instruction could be to create a form for the event to increase registrations or write me an email, whatever it is. It is a bit clever with the instruction bit, as I'll show you shortly. But yeah, I think this sort of format here of writing your prompt is really valuable. So where we can find the Einstein assistant. Now, for everyone on the call who's really familiar with account engagement and has been using it for several years, you all know there's a few experiences that you can use for emails today. I'm going to say there's actually three. So you've got the classic experience, which is, pi.pardot.com, or in the Lightning app, where you go to the drafts to set up your list email. And then you've got the drag and drop email builder that some of you might be familiar with, depending on when you've started using it. And then within that drag and drop email builder, there's now a new version of the drag and drop email builder. So we've got a few versions going on. Einstein Assistant is only available in list emails in the classic experience. So you can be on the Lightning app, but the classic experience is also available on your forms and also your classic experience landing pages as well. So let's have a look at using Einstein Assistant for emails. Now, this is the part of my demo that is unfortunately not working, but I do have a slide on this already. So it will display on the right side of your screen when you're creating a list email draft. The first thing I need to kind of point out here is that we're specifically talking list emails. You cannot, at this moment in time, use Einstein to edit your email templates. Maybe that's something that will come in a release, but for now, it's just your list email drafts. And as you're typing in your prompt and using Einstein to generate things like headlines and subject lines and paragraphs of text, that chat history will remain within that list email for the user. So if I navigate to another email and start creating it, that history won't go to the next email. But if I go back to my first email and start editing it, this chat history will still be there. So we can actually ignore it and still create emails the same way that we always have done, or we can choose to use it. My recommendation, if you are going to be sort of ignoring Einstein and just writing an email as usual, is to use the full screen option in your list emails, just to like get it out the way so you can write your email as usual. So let's look at the output that we're getting from Einstein on our list emails. So once we submit our description, so here we can see the paragraph of text that we looked at earlier, the prompt, and we've pasted that into the Einstein assistant. Einstein then asks us, what do you want to do with that information that you've given me? Do you want to generate a headline, a paragraph, or a subject line for the email? And this is what I mean by the instruction isn't super important with the way that this is built, because if I didn't include the instruction piece and I just said write a headline, it would still do that. And then what it will do is it'll generate either a headline, paragraph, or subject line for you. And then you can either choose to copy that so that you can paste it into the email, or you can choose to redraft it and it will generate a new response for you. The other option as well, if you don't think that the output you're getting is quite right, is you can edit the description. So that's where you can edit this prompt that we first put in and change the information so that we can get a different output. So that is our emails. Now let's have a look at using it with forms. And this is one that I can demo, so I will. So let me navigate to account engagement. So hopefully this is big enough. I'm going to zoom in slightly just for myself. So here I'm in the Lightning app and I'm just going to click on add form. And here we can see lovely Einstein on the right hand side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in our prompt again that we used before. Now, there's a few components to creating forms, as we all know. We've got 5 steps here across the top, and we can use it on certain tabs, but not others. So I'll put in the prompt and then we can have a look at where it's working. So I've popped in my prompt. Oh no, of course it's a live demo, so it's not going to work. Okay. Oh dear. All right, let's go back to our slides. Luckily, we have screenshots. Okay, so what we can do here is we can add in our prompt, and then what we can do on the first tab is generate the form name, the tags, headline, and content. So we can use that to essentially draft what we're going to call our form. So if I just go back to the form page, it will actually pop in a name here. So it might call it pursuit registration form here, and it will also suggest tags as well. So I've seen it put in, event registration, for example. So it will actually populate that for me. What it won't do is it won't save it in a folder, and it won't select a campaign either for me. So we can do that separately. Oh, my campaigns aren't working either. I knew doing a demo and my demo org was not going to work today was not helpful. So if I just go to a new form. So as we can see on the Fields tab, Einstein won't work on this tab, so it won't suggest the fields that we're going to use. What it will do is just say, I can't help you here, so we have to go forwards. We've just got a question here. Are you able to apply grounding criteria to your prompt similar to prompt builder, such as tagging a campaign? No, it's very different to the Salesforce prompt builder. this Einstein assistant in account engagement, it definitely doesn't have as much to it. It just has the put in your prompt to the chat box, and it'll generate very specific output. So as I mentioned, this won't work on the Fields tab, but if I move forward, oh, it looks like account engagement has given up on our demo today, unfortunately. So we can go back to the slides instead. What it will do, in fact, as a backup, I had my pre-recorded demo here. So with our forms, what it will do, there we go. I'm just going to pause on that. So there we go. Here we've got our prompt that we put in earlier, and we can see that it asks me specifically what I would like to do. Would I like to populate that name? And would I like to apply these tags? And what we can do is either accept that suggestion or we can redraft it. So when you're talking about the prompt builder in Salesforce, it's very different. It's simply description and very specific output. It's not quite as flexible. So what we can do is actually just use this video so that we can have a look at it together. So here we can see the tags that it applies to my form when using that prompt. And then I still need to select my campaign and then move on to the Fields tab, which, as we know, will not work. So moving on to the Look and Feel tab for our forms, we've got the same prompt. So because I'm in the form, I put a prompt in on the first page. It didn't work on the fields, but it does carry the prompt over whilst you're in the same asset. You know how I mentioned it retains the chat per asset. So what I've done here is I have used it to draft a headline for the form. So I've just copied that across and popped it into the above form content. And then I'm drafting a paragraph. And here we can see the paragraph that Einstein has put out for me. So that's something that we can put in our above form content as well. And me being lazy, what I can do is just take some words and pop it in the submit button text as well. So moving on to the next tab on our form is the completion actions page. We can still use Einstein, and what we can do is just use it to generate the message shown in the thank you content. So it, when we're looking at the capabilities of the Einstein Assistant, it's very much content. I know it drafted the tags as well for our forms, but it doesn't generate things like suggested completion actions, or it doesn't suggest the email template that we should put as our autoresponder on the form. It's not quite advanced at that level, but what it does is it makes our lives a lot easier when we're creating content through the form. So here we've just got some thank you text that's done pretty nicely. So let's move on to the landing pages then. Really similar on the initial tab of creating our landing page, that if we put in the same prompt, it will suggest a name as well as the title for our page and the description and the tags. So we can just accept or redraft all of the responses. So starting out with the name, and then with the title of our page, we might want to redraft this to get something different. Let's accept that one. And so you can see on the screen as well, the ones where I've accepted an Einstein response. If I just pause this, it actually highlights it for us and puts the little Einstein symbol, so you can see what was populated with Einstein versus by a human. So that's again using the exact same prompt. So for our beauty event, in our made up beauty event. So on our form page, on the landing page builder, we still can't use Einstein. So it says, I can't help you. The same with the actual layout template we're using. But it's really when we're adding content again that we can generate using Einstein. So again, using the same description on the landing page content page, that's where I can generate headlines and paragraphs of text as well. So with the, we just watch all the other things it drafts before I go back to my slides. Good to have a pre-recorded demo. So we have our title that we can add there using the headline. I do think it makes creating landing pages much quicker, especially when you're kind of, especially for an event where you're kind of sharing similar information throughout the page. You can just keep drafting it and it just makes things super quick. Cool, so here we go. Just going to fast forward some of these bits. And we can pop in different paragraphs there as well and then style it so it's really quick to create our landing pages. Cool, so heading back to our slides, I do want to cover some considerations for when using the Einstein Assistant. So the first thing is that human input on the output is really critical. So making sure that you're reviewing the content that's generated, making sure it's relevant. In the demo that we look at here, I kept using the same description for every asset in the campaign. And while it meant that there was a consistent kind of messaging going through, the wording was so similar. It was kind of just the same information everywhere. There was no kind of different spins on things. So obviously, if you're putting the same input, the same prompt, for a lot of different campaigns and assets that are really similar, then it's not going to look very different across that customer experience. Secondly, using the thumbs up and thumbs down to feedback for Einstein what isn't working in the responses. So where we can accept the content that Einstein generates for us, or we can redraft it, what we can also do is say, thumbs up, this was a great response, or thumbs down, this was bad. And then if you do a thumbs down to whatever the output is that Einstein gives you, you can actually give reasons for that. So you can give more feedback there, and then you can contribute to that development of Einstein as well. So it is a new feature and hopefully it's just going to develop in time. And then finally, keeping your goal in mind. So Einstein knows when we're going to generate the thank you for the form versus like the name of our form. And it updates that output accordingly. So as I mentioned, you don't have to necessarily write instruction, create a form name for me in Einstein when we're using it. And that's great, but making sure it's aligned with your business and campaign goals is really important. So I mentioned, the customer experience, but really thinking about your customer journey and ensuring that nothing's getting missed as you're going through that. So Einstein is really there to kind of help us and not do our work for us in that sense. So appreciate the demo aspect of this wasn't working very well today. Does anyone have any further questions on Einstein Assistant or account engagement?
Well, thanks for doing the demo. I'm sorry that part of it didn't work, but I think the general idea was, I think, communicated, and that's the goal. And that the thing that's I want to kind of like double down on is that it's meant to help you, not necessarily to do the job for you. So that's something that Salesforce always says is like, don't just take what the output is as and like review it. Like if the voice needs to be different, if a word choice needs to be different, just don't be an active participant in the in the process. It's my kind of feeling on it is that it's the Einstein Assistant functionality is cool. I'm not 100% convinced of how groundbreakingly useful it is yet, if that makes sense. It's definitely, it has some cool stuff to think, oh, that's neat. It'd be cool if we could being able to do that makes things a little quicker. And I mean, definitely for people like who are like newer to a marketing team, if you're worried about whether or not they're going to get the voice right or going to be able to write the copy correctly, you could walk them through how to use it and maybe get some continuity there from it. But I'm hopeful that this is the beginning and that there's these bigger things of being able to look at your whole system and saying, we recommend creating an automation rule with the following criteria to do X, Y, Z, or like even just going into the automation rule and saying, I need to collect prospects who when they meet this criteria, this thing happens to them. And then it just creates an automation rule for you. That's like that is huge. If you're able to do that, that would be a massive kind of revelation for the system. I don't know how close they are to that, but that'd be amazing. Justin asked if it's possible to. Saad asked if it's possible to enable Gen AI in a dev org.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think so. Right.
So it depends if this is a partner or a customer asking and what edition you've got. So when I have a working demo org as a partner, I'm able to access it. But for customers, I know we've kind of recently gone through a project of launching AI features for someone, and it wouldn't work in their sandbox environment, unfortunately. But we can get it to work in production. It's one of these things that you just have to launch. Unfortunately, one thing I will say actually, and I didn't cover it in this, is the enablement of it. So when you're enabling the Einstein assistant, you turn it on at a business unit level. So as you know, if you've got account engagement and you've got lots of marketing users in there, just turning it on might be a bit of a shock to them if they're not aware that it's coming, because it will just be there when they go to build a form, a landing page, a list email. They're not able to say, oh, I don't want to use that, let me get rid of it. So just a comment on the enablement there is that it is at a whole entire business unit level rather than user. But in terms of your dev org, I would definitely speak to your Salesforce AE about that, to see if you can get it in a sandbox. It might be a bug that they're working on, but I know it wouldn't unfortunately work for us. It was a kind of production only feature.
And Justin asked I'm curious if the thumbs up down feedback flows back into the external large language model and helps train it.
So I don't want to give any misinformation here, but when you're giving the thumbs up, thumbs down, I know obviously that message goes to Salesforce because they ask you why it wasn't a good answer. And you have to select from a list of, it's harmful, it's nothing to do with what I asked for, or, you give that feedback there. The way that it's actually integrated, I know I showed that Einstein system landscape at the beginning of the session. I'm not sure if that feedback actually goes back to OpenAI or whether it's just kind of kept in Salesforce, sort of in the trust layer piece. I'm not sure. So that's definitely a question that'd be good to understand the answer to for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, and I have a feeling that it's maybe not, that it doesn't go into the large language model because of how somewhat limited the utility is for these features. I don't know anything. I'm just kind of trying to read between the lines. I suspect that it probably I'm 50-50. It might not. That's a question for an AE or a product person if you happen to know them. It's possible, but I'm not optimistic that it like feeds in a lot. It might be a closed loop just for account engagement, since it doesn't touch any of the other objects. It's just specific to building a like subject lines and landing page copy and stuff.
Yeah, it kind of connects via the like PHP app and then calls out. So just the way that it works, I'm not sure that it'll actually give that feedback. But yeah, it'll be good to know. If I find the answer, we'll post it.
I was asked about the slides being available. If you wouldn't mind sharing those with me, and I'll add them to the community group event, if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. Okay, well, I think this was really great. I'm really optimistic and hopeful that there's more that's coming besides this. I was a little underwhelmed when it came out because it felt like it was, I mean, subject lines and copy, I get it, but I'm hopeful that this is just like the beginning and that you're going to start seeing the bigger things like create me an automation role, create me I don't even know, all these different things that are a little more like putting in a prompt saying create prospect custom field called this and map it to the Salesforce field of the same name.
I'd love to see it for engagement programs. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with is how do I create a journey, for this need. It's an upcoming event, or I want to be able to nurture prospects that haven't been contacted in a while. Imagine if it could just draft a structure for you, maybe suggest a dynamic list criteria. That would be really cool. But yeah, well, we shall see. There wasn't too much in the upcoming release for account engagement, but hopefully there's some other developments on the horizon.
Yeah, I really hope so, because I think you're exactly right. That is an area where it's surprisingly underutilized. And so if you're able to say, please create me a engagement program that has that sends 3 emails called this, and this, even if it's just that, like that's at least creating it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you have to have these assets already available to do that, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I think this is a good first step, but having those, this is a good opportunity for people to get comfortable with, like the generative stuff, like creating prompts. Hopefully after this, there's more to come. I'm also a little bit anxious that they might not go as terribly in depth because they want to maybe try and push more stuff onto core, and if they're planning to eventually sunset engagement studios for Journey Builder, or not Journey Builder, but Flow, why would they spend the developer hours to create these Gen AI features for a functionality that's eventually going to be on core and not on a Lightning app? So I don't know. All these things that just kind of make me wonder, make me go, I wonder if that's actually going to happen.
Yeah. However, if you are using the Lightning Builder, the Lightning Builder, the newer experience. It's so hard to describe these things, right? If you are using that, obviously, if you're using Prompt Builder in Salesforce, you can kind of piggyback on some of that stuff as well. So yeah, I don't think it'll stop with the Einstein Assistant in account engagement. Even as we see more things come onto core, I think we'll definitely see more stuff available too. It might just have a different spin on it.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I mean, they're obviously all in, so hopefully it means that it's gonna some really impactful things start happening with these AI initiatives. But anyways, thank you so much for this presentation. Super helpful. Appreciate your insights, and yeah, look for the recording in the next few days, along with the presentation. And Zoe, if you ever want to come back again and talk about stuff, open invitation. Just let me know.
Great. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.